New York, summer of 1979. On a bustling Manhattan street, 6-year-old Etan Patz eagerly stepped out the door, walking by himself to the bus stop just half a kilometer from home. It was the first time Etan was allowed to go to school alone, a moment any child looks forward to prove they've grown up. But no one expected that after just a few steps, Etan would vanish from this world forever. Etan became the first face to appear on milk cartons across America, sparking the movement to find missing children. And over 40 years later, the case, which seemed to have closed with a conviction for Pedro Hernandez, who once confessed to killing the boy, suddenly took an unexpected turn that stunned the public. The conviction was overturned. Will justice truly be served, or will this continue to be a new, controversial chapter in a long, unresolved journey?
On May 25, 1979, Etan's parents allowed him to walk alone to the bus stop 500 meters from their home in Manhattan, New York City, a long-held wish of his. Etan was a well-behaved boy, loved by his neighbors. That day he wore a blue shirt, striped shorts, and carried a whimsical, elephant-shaped bag with the words, "Future Captain." A woman living near the bus stop reported seeing Etan standing at the corner, about to cross the street. The mailman also saw him cross the street. They were the last people to see Etan. The school bus arrived at 8 a.m., stopping on West Broadway. Students crowded on board, but Etan was nowhere to be seen. When classes began, his homeroom teacher noticed his absence but didn't report it to the authorities or his parents. Mrs. Julie remained calm, assuming her son was at school. In the afternoon, the bus stopped again on West Broadway. A neighbor, who usually picked up her daughter and Etan, became concerned when she didn't see the boy. Her daughter then told her father that Etan hadn't been in class that day. Recognizing this as a potential child abduction, the police immediately launched a search that evening. Nearly 100 officers fanned out across nearby areas, knocking on every door to ask about the boy. Authorities used every available method, including canine units and helicopters, to sweep across Manhattan. They also deployed boats to search ponds, lakes, and rivers. Posters with Etan's picture were plastered everywhere. A clue emerged on May 27 when a person came to the police station, claiming to have seen a boy matching the description in the posters, talking to a suspicious-looking man at a store near the bus stop. The man was wearing white, appeared to be about 40 years old, had freckles on his face, and disheveled blonde hair. Police searched based on the witness's description, but found no results. By 1982, police in the Bronx had apprehended a suspect in a child molestation case, Jose Antonio Ramos. Unemployed and nomadic, Ramos was someone everyone instinctively avoided, yet he spoke with surprising gentleness and politeness. Ramos himself confessed that he had abducted a child to his home, and he was 90% certain it was Etan Patz. However, police found no evidence to link Ramos directly to Etan's disappearance, and the case once again reached a dead end. Nonetheless, the police did not give up. In 1980, Detective Bill Butler officially took over the case. As a father of 6, Butler shared that he practically ate and slept with the investigation, treating the search for Etan Patz as if he were looking for his own son. However, Butler was unable to find any concrete leads. It wasn't until 2010, when Cyrus Vance assumed the role of Manhattan District Attorney, that the case was revived. At the time, Vance declared, "I'm going after the killer for the Patz family." However, by 2012, the case that seemed to have faded into obscurity was reopened after Pedro Hernandez confessed to a prayer group that he had killed a child in New York in 1979, around the same time Etan disappeared. Pedro's brother-in-law reported this to the police. Authorities went to Pedro's home in Mapleshade, New Jersey, and interrogated him for over 6 hours. Ultimately, Pedro admitted to strangling victim Etan 33 years ago in the basement of a convenience store in Manhattan where he worked. This confession was seen as an unexpected breakthrough in the mysterious murder case that had gone cold for so many years. Pedro led investigators from the New York Police Department to the crime scene, what was once the convenience store, and had since been converted into an optician's shop. According to Pedro's testimony, he lured Etan with soda, took the boy to the basement, and strangled him. The body was then placed in a plastic bag and discarded in a trash can. At the time of the crime, Pedro was only 18 years old. However, Pedro's lawyers argued that the confession was unreliable because Pedro was undergoing psychiatric treatment. Nevertheless, special experts interrogated Pedro and concluded that he was not mentally ill and that the jury could trust his testimony. They also provided several video clips showing him living a completely normal life and that he had never previously claimed to suffer from mental illness. The location of Etan's body remains a mystery. As a result, the investigative team couldn't perform an autopsy to gather sufficient scientific evidence to support their hypothesis. However, the jury stated that Pedro's confession to the police and the testimony from the prayer group sealed his fate. In April 2017, Pedro was convicted of second-degree murder and first-degree kidnapping, receiving a sentence of 25 years to life in prison. However, after 8 years of his sentence, a significant development occurred. On July 21, 2025, a federal appeals court in New York ruled that Pedro Hernandez must either face a new trial or be released. In a 51-page decision, a 3-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit overturned the previous conviction and ordered a new trial or Hernandez's release. The reason cited was that the trial judge in the New York State Court had given erroneous instructions to the jury regarding a crucial question related to the defendant's confession. Hernandez's lawyers argued that these incorrect instructions directly impacted the trial's outcome. They had repeatedly asserted that Hernandez suffered from mental illness and that his confession was coerced after hours of police interrogation. In a statement, the defense team, who have represented Hernandez from the initial trial to the appeals, stated, "For more than 13 years, Pedro Hernandez has been incarcerated for a crime he did not commit, based on a conviction that the Second Circuit Court of Appeals has now clearly determined violated the law. We are grateful that the court has given Pedro the opportunity to reclaim his life. And we call on the Manhattan District Attorney's Office to drop these false charges and instead focus on investigating and holding accountable those truly responsible for Etan Patz's disappearance." According to the July 21 ruling, Hernandez has a history of mental illness and a low IQ, and he confessed after approximately 7 hours of police interrogation without being read his Miranda rights, the right to remain silent, and to have an attorney. After his confession, the police then read him his Miranda rights and began videotaping his confession, both at the police station and before an assistant district attorney. In court, the prosecution repeatedly played these video segments, treating them as central evidence in the second trial. The jury sent 3 notes to the judge regarding the confessions, with a third note asking, if the jury finds that the first confession, given before Miranda rights were read, was involuntary, is it then mandatory to exclude subsequent confessions, including the recorded confession at the prosecutor's office? The judge simply replied, no, without further explanation. After 9 days of deliberation, the jury convicted Hernandez of aggravated murder and first-degree kidnapping, but acquitted him of intentional murder. The disappearance of Etan Patz wasn't just a family tragedy, it was a wake-up call that transformed the awareness of an entire generation of parents across the United States. The relentless and agonizing perseverance of Etan's parents forced society to confront the reality that missing children could not be taken lightly. They helped lay the groundwork for a nationwide movement to find missing children, from establishing hotlines to sharing urgent information across all media platforms. This case led directly to the founding of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC, in 1984. A wave of awareness programs and legal reforms were also spurred, including the Missing Children's Assistance Act, which gave the federal government a clearer role in aiding the search for children. From this point on, a ripple effect of action spread across America, placing children's safety at the forefront as a national priority.